I apologize in advance for my voice, which is very stuffed up from allergy season. Make no mistake, work is important. It will always be important. It keeps things running and it's good for your mental health. But what happens when a country becomes so money hungry that work becomes a form of blackmail of the government to its citizens? This is the America we live in today. Work should be a lot of things. It should be something you have to do. If you don't, then you'll get a lot of lazy people who will just gladly sit around doing nothing. It should not be the focus of your life, but so often in this hyper-capitalist society, you are rewarded for working overtime, weekends, and missing everything for the sake of work. You should be able to live on one job, but for so long, especially when inflation plays a role, people have to have multiple revenue streams just to survive. Merriam-Webster defines consumerism as the theory that an increasing consumption of goods is economically desirable. Also, a preoccupation with and an inclination towards the buying of consumer goods. This definition might seem tame to most, but make no mistake. The consumerist mindset goes hand in hand with our work and educational crisis of the 21st century. Our jobs are quickly becoming incapable, or worse, unwilling to pay enough for the average American to live. And as if that wasn't bad enough by itself, we live in a society where everywhere you turn, everyone you meet, and almost every square inch on your computer screen is trying to advertise products to you, most of which are unnecessary at best, outright scams at worst. But was it always this way? Life is just a game of how far can we go before we've gone too far, and once we find that line, how can we push it further out? People have been greedy since the beginning of time. One of the very first sins was the sin of Eve being greedy for the power of God himself. But mix greed with power, and that's when we've got a problem. Most rulers of the past were greedy for riches and land. That's why world history tends to be separated into eras of empires, the most prominent one being the empire of the ancient Romans. Their leaders would double as military masterminds and take over all the land they could find, but this would never last. Eventually, someone would come and replace them, and the cycle would continue. Fast forward to 10 years ago or so, and people had largely given this idea up. I say 10 years ago because, well, recent events. Look it up. People's need for riches and power haven't changed, mind you, but they've found better ways to get it. And here in America, at least, it starts with the education system. School here starts when you're 6. Wait, no, kindergarten, 5. Oh, wait, they want to make preschool a thing, 4. Oh, are we counting daycare? Now, when this point is made, a lot of people may feel tempted to point their fingers either at the mothers or at the person making the point, but neither should be the correct target of this judgment. I'll circle back to it later. From birth, children are being taught to be reliant on others that aren't themselves or their family. Parents are being forced to work to survive, so the kids go to daycare until they're old enough for school. Once they're in school, their development and what they're learning is completely out of the parents' control. And if you've seen some of the headlines, that has been getting way out of hand. In high school, you learn things like chemistry, pre-calculus, advanced literature, and if said child decided that they wanted to be a chemist, a mathematician, or a literature analysis, then that's great for them. But for most, it's unneeded stress and wasted time. Does anyone teach us how to file our taxes, fix basic things that are broken, cook a meal? Maybe some schools do, but today most of us have no idea how to do any of those things. We have to toss those jobs to others, and we'll pay a fortune for it. Once they finish school, they're pressured to go to college. After college, they get a degree and a crippling burden of debt. And while the degree used to get them places, now it's largely taken its original form, a useless piece of paper. People in later generations are doing all the work that older generations did, but they're getting nothing in return. No one's being told that there are other options than college. College is neat if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or a CEO, but it's become so much more than it ever needed to be. No one is being encouraged to go to trade school, or to join the military or police or firefighters, or to start their own business, or to grow a social media following, or to climb the corporate ladder. We have so many options, and college is literally the most expensive one. That's why they want us to choose it. Whatever happened to the American dream? Uniqueness? Everyone claims to champion being unique, but the second someone steps out from the life path the government or social media has decided you should take, they will make it harder for you. Trade schools are seen as lesser for no good reason whatsoever. Starting your own business is harder than it's ever been. Companies would rather outsource work for higher positions than give its own employees the chance. Benefits for veterans are almost non-existent and everyone's turned on the police. Don't even get me started on how much unfair pressure and stress gets put on the social media influencers by their own fans. Now, let's go back to the college thing. For being pressured so much to go to college, you'd think they would be offering something pretty good in return, right? Well, that setup question makes no sense because I've already answered it. No. Companies aren't willing to pay you diddly squat. They expect you to work for your pay, to prove yourself worthy of their upturned noses gazing down. But the problem with that is there's a little something called inflation going on right now, and people cannot afford to play this game anymore. How stuck up do you have to be to expect people to live with 3 roommates and have a part-time job at night just to prove themselves to your company? Even people who do play the game and put in all this effort, a lot of the time do not even get recognized for their trouble. If you look at the pattern of what types of people get roles at the top, it's people who hop from company to company, who are already in that world. If you prove yourself a hard worker who will do whatever it takes, yeah, maybe some places will reward that. Amazing. But a lot of other places have been proved to simply take advantage of that. Dangle the carrot close enough to your face to see, but not close enough to taste. Part-time is little better. Part-time is made for people who don't have the type of availability that full-timers do. In return, they don't get benefits and slightly less pay. But this is okay because it's the best type of job for younger people just starting out and older people who don't care for retirement as much as they thought they would. And spouses who their other spouse is okay having the full-time job. Nowadays, however, part-timers are working only a little less than full-time as a company's way to get out of paying them benefits or a fair wage. You're expected to give a 2 weeks notice if you ever want to leave, but if they decide they don't want you anymore, you're gone that day. They'll give you as few breaks as possible and take advantage of anyone who lets them. And the worst part is, if you don't play the game, you're at a disadvantage you might not be able to afford. People in the older generations will say that it's just the way the world works. People on the internet will call millennials and Gen Z lazy and assume we just want everything our way, when really, we just want to be treated fairly. This makes me think of another Bible story. This was ancient Israel right after the great King Solomon died. For all of his wisdom, and despite how he made the kingdom prosper more than they ever had or ever would again, he was a hard taskmaster to the people working under him, and they were hoping his son would be different. But no, his son promised them working conditions that were 10 times worse. So what do you think happened next? Every group of people under his rule, with the exception of 2 tribes, left him to start their own kingdom. That was how Israel split into the nations of Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Looks like basic decency keeps people working for you a lot better than working under the bone. Who would have thunk it? Even getting a job in the first place is harder than it needs to be. You ever wonder why you send out 100 applications a day and hear nothing back except for 3 after applying tests that go nowhere, and maybe a callback request for the worst paying job on the list? It's because companies use a computer software that filters out every resume that doesn't have keywords. And their experience requirements are insane. They aren't interested in training anyone anymore. Everywhere you look, you need years of experience for the most basic of jobs. It would take someone 1 shift to teach you how to use a computer software, or scan things into a system, or how to slice meat, or how to sell things, or literally anything that's not complicated enough to need schooling for. This system is rigged against us, and they still expect us to participate with a smile. You're going to run out of people with experience eventually, you know. America is skewed towards the people with power. They're the ones who get to make the decisions, get the money that should be going towards wage raises, and they don't care. They are the ones that benefit from every missed soccer game, every late night, all of your hopes and dreams. The moment you put your job above your family, they've won, and you and your family have lost. Oh, but we're the lazy ones for wanting to look back at the end of our lives and think of happy memories with our families instead of cold, hard days behind a desk. I got it. Now, what about consumerism? What part does consumerism play in all this? Well, what if I told you it's a huge reason why we've gotten to this point at all? I've made the switch from a grocery store job to a retail job, and boy, oh boy, am I realizing just how much junk exists in the world. Just shelves and shelves full of cheap trinkets that come wrapped up in enough paper to destroy a small forest. And we'll leave the store in 6 plastic bags that will take up space in the landfill. Have you seen a trash mountain? It's loads of trash, just piled up so high that it looks like a large hill. I'm not saying stuff doesn't have value and that you should have none of it. It's fun to decorate for the holidays, to show your style. Gifts from loved ones should be treasured, and having physical media collections are crucial in today's streaming landscape. But your decision to buy things can be manipulated by people who would wrench your money straight from your hands if they could legally do that. The food companies are the worst offenders. They're putting chemicals that were dangerous enough to use in weapons of war in World War II into our food because they couldn't figure out how else to get rid of them. They're banned in Europe, but America is so money-focused they let these companies do whatever they want. Ever wonder why allergies, chronic diseases, and mental health issues are on the rise in the 21st century? Well, stop wondering. And if you think something's safe because a study told you it was, look up who funded said study. If it's the company selling you those things, it can't be trusted. Marketing is more aggressive than ever. Products are framed as needs as opposed to wants, and if there's no way they can stretch the need-want line that far, they'll tell you that you need to treat yourself and buy. Kids' toys are another thing that's gotten way out of control. Everything's either mini-sized, made to break so they can sell you more when they do, or even a soft form of gambling, with mystery being the main draw of buying more. Maybe someday you'll get the one you want. Didn't tactics like this get video games scrutinized? Why aren't we putting a microscope under the toy companies? Don't even get me started on subscription services. I mean, really, a subscription service to use heated seats. If you know, you know. I'm getting very rambly, so I'll stop complaining and start ordering my thoughts more precisely. Americans value ease and wealth more than most other countries on the planet. The people on the top of the totem pole can't take all that money with them when they die, and yet they're never satisfied. We have it good here in America. Too good. Because people are willing to pay exorbitant prices for things like dining, travel, weddings, houses, transportation, entertainment, the thrill of a night out gambling. Those things have gone up so high in price that you may feel like you need a lot of money to be happy, because if you have a lot of money, you'll get to enjoy those things. The middle class is shrinking, even if you put your health on the line and buy the cheapest of cheap groceries, because everything with ingredients that won't slowly kill you is expensive, your bill will still add up to too much. The rich and Airbnb owners are buying up all the houses, so renting in apartments become the only option, and those options are still expensive. And still, these companies have the gall to try and sell you wants when you can barely afford your needs. Thanks, America. I hate it. We're not capitalist anymore. We are a consumerist culture of elites at the top with everyone else at the bottom. And no, socialism will not fix it. I'm sorry, it sounds nice on paper, but it's never worked. The line between the elite and the poor will only get wider, because who's going to decide what everyone, quote-unquote, deserves and is their fair share? The same elites that are willing to sell us borderline addictive poison in our food just to get us to buy more of it. They don't care. I'm still young, so any ideas I have to fix things may be flawed, seeing as I don't have as much life experience as some. My best advice is to figure out your priorities. What do you want out of life? Once you know those things for sure, you can figure out the best way to play the rigged game of life and win.